for room correction, what is better, Sonarworks via Apollo or MA1 via Neumann? First, what are these two things? Like Sonarworks, I think can be run in several different instances. At the end of the day, just for those not aware, each of these tools attempts to counteract the way your room changes the sound come from your speakers so that you're hearing what's actually being played through the speakers. And Sonarworks could be an instance of a software on your computer. It could be a plugin at the end of your signal chain in your DAW. You could even, like, I think the Atom A7V monitors I've got here have the ability to have Sonarworks running inside them. And then Neumann MA1, I think that's their proprietary version of that can run inside their monitors.
Right.
I know you use the Neumann monitors, and I also know that you use Sonarworks. Let's get further into this question, though. It says the challenge is a small untreated room. You say that MA1 seems like it'd be more accurate, but Sonarworks would cover your headphones, your speakers, etc. It can apply to different playbacks media. One thing I got to say right off the bat is that I use Sonarworks, but in a very specific way, because I think the first entry point to Sonarworks would be to get the desktop software that it's almost like a driver for your driver, like all your audio going to your interface passes through this thing before it goes to your speakers or your headphones or whatever. And for me, on Mac, that has led to situations where, like, I don't get any audio if I join a Zoom call or something like that. That can happen. There's just like software quirks sometimes. There's also, being software in your computer, you could forget to change it. So maybe I throw on my headphones, I turn up the volume, but I've still got the preset that's for my my speakers, or I switch speakers, I switch monitor pairs, and I've still got the other one applied. So what I do instead is I use Sonarworks to measure my room, and then I take that EQ and I put it later in the signal chain. I think that's the principle I want to highlight. For me, I put it in my interface so that output A, it has a certain EQ curve that goes to speakers A, and then output B has a different one that applies to monitors B. And then my headphone output could have a third one even. And then you could accomplish a similar thing by doing that inside of the monitor itself. So like I said, I could run Sonarworks integration with my Atom monitors. You could run MA1 with your Neumann monitors. And what's great about that is not only is it whatever goes to that speaker is always going to have that EQ correction. So like, let's say you have a patch bay and you plug an iPhone in. Well, that doesn't go through the Sonarworks program, right? So now when you plug something in, you bypass that, you're not hearing the corrected version. I think having it toward the end of the signal chain has a few advantages. Like, it's always applied and you don't have to worry about switching something earlier in the chain between the headphone profile and the monitor profile. But aside from those things, Gabe, I mean, you're shaking your head. I think you agree maybe with those points. Do you have other points that might make you choose one over the other?
Only one, which came from conversations directly with Neumann. I don't know if this is still the way they are looking at the MA1 profile. I ultimately decided not to use it, though I have used it. What I understand, and I don't know if I'm right about this, so I'm just predicating this on this. Bears more research, but from my understanding, Sonarworks is trying to make everything as flat as possible, frequency response wise, whereas the MA1 is actually trying to push it not towards flat, but actually calibrated rooms. It's trying to copy other rooms that already exist, and they are good treated rooms. They are nice rooms. They're rooms I would be very happy to mix in for sure and record in. But the point of my correction is that I want to know what flat is, and then I want to be able to compare that and contrast it against what I know flat isn't. And I want both those things to be very concrete and predictive. So Sonarworks did that for me. I also have it live in my interface, so it's not in my software, so I don't have to flip back and forth. I am using it for the immersive correction, which Sonarworks does. MA1 will do that too, but then they have to live in the speaker. The nice thing also about Sonarworks for me in that context is that I do research. So in my research, sometimes I'm looking at like, does this speaker configuration accurately reproduce this in immersive, right? And so I might want to change something about my speakers, and then recalibrate and have that calibration be recallable. And I can do that from Sonarworks. It's a little harder to do with the MA1 because you have to go into each speaker and reprogram each speaker again. Or now I think it can live in the interface, but I'm not entirely sure how that all works. So those are the only other things that come up to my mind, that are worth considering.
Yeah. One last thing I'll say about this, I see that you say the challenge small untreated room.
Yes, let's address that
Let's
elephant in a
address that
small
because
untreated
you
room.
can't fix everything with either of these tools. You can't fix a lot of things actually with either of these tools. They are designed, I think, to be the final cherry on top of an acoustic treatment setup,
Correct.
even if they're not always marketed to be such.
Well, I think Sonarworks, the folks at Sonarworks will be
Yep.
very upfront with you about that. They'll
Yep.
say, don't spend money on our product before you spend the money on the treatment.
Yep. Yep.
And I can't stress that enough. Don't spend your first money on this. Spend the good money on getting your room 98% of the way there, and then ask Sonarworks to get you the last 2 to 3%, or these softwares just to get you the last little bit. You won't regret spending money on the insulation and the treatment. It'll make everything sound better. You can't fix it all with these softwares.
Yeah. Yeah. And you'll never fix it all with anything, probably, especially if you're in a small room,
Right.
especially if it's a square or, a rectangular prism like mine
Yeah.
is right here.
Yeah.
But I think, and, like you can get really, really down the rabbit hole in this, but I think that there's a point of diminishing returns, and I don't see that as a bad thing. I see that as a good thing because what that says to me is that some very simple actions right away can make huge differences. So like even just putting up first reflection absorption, as I talk about in my videos, will make a huge difference. And then you're going to get so much more out of your monitors, and you're going to get so much more out of a tool like Sonarworks. And then you start to think about the other parts of the room, and you can get a big impact from that. But then at a certain point, it's like, wow, I would have to really think a lot about how to manage like the bass in my room. But you've already done all that other stuff, and so I feel like what I'm trying to say is don't feel intimidated by it. It is complicated, but it doesn't. You don't have to fully understand it to implement some very key and very impactful treatments in your room.
Right.
Search Audio University acoustic treatment, and you'll see my opinion. What are the first few steps you should take? And even I think if you just take step one in that, you're going to see a dramatic difference.